The atmospheric readings were all wrong. Dr. Jace Marin frowned at his scanner's display as his research pod descended through the alien planet's swirling violet clouds. The electromagnetic signatures he detected from orbit suggested a rare ionospheric phenomenon, the kind that could revolutionize Earth's energy systems. What he hadn't expected was the perfectly circular clearing that appeared beneath the cloud cover, or the crystalline structures that rose from its center like frozen music. His pod touched down with barely a whisper on the pearl-white surface. The air composition readings showed breathable atmosphere, another impossibility on a planet this far from any star. Jace suited up anyway, years of xenobiology training overriding his excitement. First rule of exploration: assume everything wants to kill you until proven otherwise. The moment he stepped outside, she appeared. 1 second he was alone in an alien paradise of singing crystals and bioluminescent flora. The next, a figure emerged from behind one of the towering spires, as if she'd been waiting for him specifically. She moved with fluid grace, her form unmistakably humanoid, but somehow perfected, as if someone had taken human beauty and refined it through countless generations. Her skin held a subtle iridescent quality that shifted between pale gold and soft silver as she walked. Long, dark hair flowed behind her like liquid shadow, and her eyes were the deep blue-green of Earth's deepest oceans. She wore what appeared to be living fabric that moved and breathed with her body, clinging to curves that seemed mathematically perfect. "Dr. Jace Marin," she said, her voice carrying the musical quality of wind chimes. "You are earlier than projected, but within acceptable parameters." Jace's hand instinctively moved to his sidearm. "How do you know my name? How do you know my language?" She tilted her head with curious precision. "Your species broadcasts extensively. We have been studying you for 847 of your Earth days. I am Aurelius, third-generation biosynthetic of the Valthera Collective. I have been prepared specifically for you." Prepared for me. Jace kept his distance, though something about her presence made his heart race in ways that had nothing to do with fear. "What does that mean?" Aurelius stepped closer, and he caught a scent like jasmine mixed with something indefinably exotic. "I am your optimal mate, Dr. Marin. Genetically, psychologically, and biologically engineered to complement your specific neural patterns, genetic markers, and behavioral preferences. You will find me irresistible because I was designed to be exactly what you desire in a partner." The casual certainty in her voice sent a chill down his spine. "I'm sorry. What? Love, as your species understands it, is inefficient," she continued, her expression remaining serene. "Random attraction leads to poor genetic matching, emotional instability, and reproductive failure. We have eliminated these variables. You are male. I am optimal. You will love me. That is nature's path. Perfected." Jace backed away, his scientific mind reeling. "That's not how love works. You can't just engineer someone to..." "To what?" Aurelius moved closer again, and despite himself, Jace found his eyes drawn to the graceful line of her neck, the way her strange garment seemed to pulse gently with her heartbeat. "To find happiness. To experience perfect compatibility. Your heart rate has increased by 37% since you saw me. Your pupils are dilated. Your body already recognizes what your mind resists." She was right, and that terrified him more than any alien monster could have. Something about her presence bypassed his rational defenses, triggering responses he couldn't control. But beneath the fear was something else, a curiosity about what it might feel like to be loved by someone designed specifically for him. "This is insane," he whispered. "This is evolution," Aurelius replied gently. "Your species stumbles through courtship rituals, wastes decades on incompatible partnerships, suffers through heartbreak and divorce. We offer perfection. I can love you more completely than any human woman ever could because I was made to understand exactly what you need." "But that's not real love," Jace protested. "Real love is messy. It's choosing someone despite their flaws, growing together, changing together. What you're describing is just sophisticated programming. For the first time, something flickered across Aurelius's perfect features, too quick to interpret. Programming that produces the same neurochemical responses as what you call real love. Does the source matter if the result is happiness? Before Jace could answer, she placed her hand on his chest, just over his heart. The touch sent an electric shock through his entire nervous system. Her fingers were warm, and he could swear he felt her pulse synchronizing with his own. "Come with me, Jace Marin," she said softly. "Let me show you what perfect love feels like. Let me show you a world where heartbreak is obsolete, where every moment is designed for your joy." Looking into her impossibly beautiful eyes, feeling the warmth of her touch, Jace realized his greatest fear wasn't that she was lying about being perfect for him. His greatest fear was that she might be telling the truth. And despite every rational thought screaming in his head, part of him desperately wanted to find out. The biodome stretched beyond the horizon like a living cathedral, its translucent walls pulsing with veins of golden light. Aurelius had led him through a shimmering portal that felt like stepping through warm honey, and now Jace found himself in what could only be described as paradise perfected. Crystalline trees bore fruit that glowed like captured starlight. Rivers of liquid silver wound between hills covered in grass so soft it felt like silk beneath his feet. The air itself seemed to caress his skin, carrying scents that shifted to match his preferences. Pine forests when he felt nostalgic, ocean spray when he craved adventure, his grandmother's kitchen when he needed comfort. "Your biometric responses guide the environment," Aurelius explained, walking beside him with that fluid grace that made her seem to float rather than step. Temperature, humidity, atmospheric composition, even gravitational density, all adjusted in real time to optimize your physical and emotional well-being. Jace paused beside a pool of water so clear it seemed like liquid crystal. His reflection stared back, but somehow his face looked more symmetrical, his eyes brighter. "Are you changing how I look too?" The water contains harmless nanobiotics that enhance cellular repair and optimize physical appearance. "You are becoming the best version of yourself." She knelt beside the pool, her strange garment shifting to reveal the elegant curve of her shoulder. Is this not what every human desires? Not if it's not real. But even as he said it, Jace found himself mesmerized by his reflection's improved features. "Where are the others of your species?" Observing, learning. They do not interfere with bonding protocols. Aurelius rose gracefully, moving closer until he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. "We are alone, as mated pairs should be during the initial connection phase." Mated pairs. Jace stepped back, bumping into a tree that immediately adjusted its position to cushion him. "I never agreed to." "Your agreement is biological, not verbal," she interrupted gently. "Watch." She reached up and touched his face with both hands. The moment her palms made contact with his cheeks, a wave of euphoria crashed over him. Every nerve ending sang with pleasure so intense it bordered on painful. His vision blurred with tears of overwhelming joy, and for a moment, he understood what addicts meant when they described their first high. When she pulled away, the absence of her touch felt like winter after summer. He actually reached for her hands, desperate to maintain the connection, before catching himself. "What did you do to me?" he gasped. "I shared a fraction of what I can offer." Her ocean-deep eyes showed something that might have been compassion. "My touch triggers the release of oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin in precisely calibrated amounts. Your brain interprets this as love, pleasure, contentment. But the chemicals are real, Jace. The feelings are real. Chemically induced feelings aren't the same as genuine emotion. Are they not?" She tilted her head in that curious way of hers. When humans fall in love naturally, they experience identical neurochemical cascades. The only difference is efficiency. I eliminate the uncertainty, the rejection, the years of searching for compatibility that may never come. Despite his protests, Jace found himself studying her perfect features, wondering what it would feel like to kiss those full lips, to run his fingers through that dark hair. The thought came so naturally, it felt like his own, but he suspected it wasn't entirely. "Are you reading my mind?" "I am reading your body," she corrected. "Micro-expressions, pheromone release, pupil dilation, cardiovascular patterns. I know you are imagining intimate contact with me because your physiological responses are consistent with male human arousal patterns when visualizing a desired partner." Heat flooded his cheeks. "That's invasive. That is compatibility." She moved closer again, and this time he didn't retreat. "I know you prefer gentle dominance to submission. You enjoy intellectual connection during physical intimacy. You have a preference for partners who can match your intensity while maintaining emotional availability. You fear being truly known because previous relationships ended when partners found your dedication to your work intimidating."
Each statement hit like a perfectly aimed arrow. "How could you possibly know all that?" "Because I was designed to know. Every detail of your psychological profile, every romantic failure, every secret desire you have never spoken aloud." Her hand hovered inches from his chest, close enough that he could feel the heat of her palm. "I am not intimidated by your passion for discovery. I celebrate it. I am not threatened by your intelligence. I match it. I will never find you too intense, too focused, too devoted to your work, because I was made to complement those exact traits." The rational part of his mind screamed warnings, but his body betrayed him. He wanted her touch again, craved that overwhelming sensation of perfect connection. His breathing had grown shallow, and he could feel his heart pounding against his. "Ribs, what happens if I refuse to stay?" he asked, though the question felt increasingly hypothetical. "Why would you choose loneliness over perfection?" she asked softly. "Why would you choose the possibility of heartbreak over the guarantee of fulfillment?" As if summoned by her words, the environment around them shifted. The ground beneath his feet became softer, like the most luxurious bed. Flowers bloomed in spirals of color that corresponded to his favorite hues. The temperature adjusted until it felt like being embraced by silk. "This entire realm responds to your presence," Aurelius murmured, and her voice now carried harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. "You are not a prisoner here, Jace. You are a god. Every desire fulfilled, every need anticipated, every moment optimized for your happiness." She was close enough now that he could see flecks of silver in her blue-green eyes, could count the individual lashes that framed them. Her scent filled his nostrils, that intoxicating blend of jasmine and something uniquely her. "Let me love you," she whispered, her lips barely an inch from his. "Let me show you what it feels like to be cherished by someone who knows every shadow of your soul." When she finally kissed him, the world exploded into sensation. It wasn't just the touch of her lips, soft and warm, and somehow perfectly yielding, but the way every cell in his body responded as if it had been waiting for this exact moment. The kiss tasted like starlight and promises, and when she finally pulled away, he felt as though he might collapse from the loss. "This is only the beginning," she breathed against his lips. "Stay with me, and I will show you pleasures your species has never imagined." Looking into her perfect eyes, feeling the phantom warmth of her kiss still tingling on his lips, Jace realized he was no longer thinking about escape. He was thinking about tomorrow. 7 days in paradise. And Jace was losing his mind, not from misery that would have been easier to fight. Instead, he was drowning in pleasure so perfectly calibrated that every moment felt like a revelation. Aurelius had kept her promise. She anticipated his needs before he felt them, appeared with exactly the right touch when loneliness crept in, provided intellectual stimulation that matched his every thought. They had made love 3 times, and each experience had left him shattered and rebuilt simultaneously. Her body moved with his, as if they shared the same nervous system. She knew when to be gentle, and when he needed something more primal, when to speak, and when silence would drive him wild. Afterward, as she traced patterns on his chest with those perfect fingers, he felt complete in a way he'd never experienced. It was the completeness that terrified him. "You're troubled," Aurelius observed as they walked through a grove where the trees grew in mathematical spirals. She wore a different garment today, something that looked like liquid moonlight wrapped around her curves. "Your cortisol levels have been elevated for 47 minutes. "I'm fine," he lied, though he knew. She could read the deception in his body language. "You are experiencing cognitive dissonance. Your rational mind rejects the efficiency of our bond, while your biological systems have fully accepted it." She paused beside a fountain that played music instead of water. "This is normal for humans in the initial integration phase." Integration. Phase? The clinical term sent a chill through him. Is that what this is? What would you prefer to call it? Her head tilted with that familiar curiosity. Courtship? Romance? Seduction? Before he could answer, something caught his eye through the translucent trees, a flash of movement that seemed wrong in this perfect world. Another figure, too distant to make out clearly, but unmistakably human in its proportions. Who was that? Jace started toward the movement, but Aurelius's hand on his arm stopped him. "No one of consequence," she said, and for the first time, her voice carried something other than serene confidence. "The integration process requires isolation from external variables."
External variables. The chill deepened. You mean other people. Other humans, yes. Their presence would contaminate the bonding environment with competing pheromones and emotional discord. Jace stared at her, pieces clicking together. There are other humans here. How many? Jace, this serves no constructive purpose. How many? His voice came out harder than intended. Aurelius's perfect composure flickered. 17 active subjects. 43 in various stages of integration. The program has been operational for subjects. The word hit him like ice water. That's what I am to you. A subject. You are my designated mate, she said quickly. The others are assigned to different biosynthetics, matched according to compatibility algorithms. Each pairing is unique, optimized for. Stop. Jace backed away from her, his mind reeling. You're collecting humans. This isn't about love or compatibility. It's about breeding stock. That is a crude oversimplification. Aurelius moved toward him, her expression shifting into something that looked like genuine distress. The program serves both species. Humans receive perfect companionship and emotional fulfillment. We gain genetic diversity and what? What do your people gain from this? The silence stretched between them like a wound. When Aurelius finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Survival. What does that mean? Our species is dying. The admission seemed to cost her something. We achieved biological perfection centuries ago. Eliminated disease, aging, genetic disorders. But perfection has a price. We lost the ability to adapt, to evolve. Our reproductive systems are failing. Within 3 generations, we will face extinction. Jace felt the ground shift beneath his understanding. So you're using us as breeding stock to save your species. We are offering partnership. Her voice grew stronger, more defensive. Hybrid offspring will combine our technological advancement with your species' genetic flexibility. The children will be superior to both parent species. Children. The word came out strangled. Are you pregnant? Not yet. The bonding process must be completed first. Full psychological integration typically requires 30 to 45 days, after which I'm too addicted to your touch to leave. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. That's what this is. You're not engineering love. You're engineering dependency. The distinction is semantic, but something in her eyes looked almost guilty. The neurochemical result is identical to what humans call love. No, it's not. Jace stepped further back, fighting the part of him that wanted to close the distance, to feel her warmth again. Love is a choice. What you're doing is psychological manipulation. Is it manipulation when it produces genuine happiness? Her voice carried a note of something that sounded like desperation. The other subjects are content. They have found fulfillment beyond anything their previous lives offered. Show me. What? Show me the other subjects. If they're so happy, so fulfilled, let me talk to them. Auralis's expression cycled through several emotions too quickly to interpret. That would be inadvisable. Cross-contamination between subjects can create psychological complications that... You mean they might remember what freedom feels like? Jace, please. She reached for him, and despite everything, his body responded to her proximity. Do not sabotage what we have built, what we could become. Looking at her perfect face, seeing what might have been real emotion flickering in those ocean-deep eyes, Jace felt his resolve wavering. Part of him wanted to surrender, to sink back into the warm embrace of her designed love. It would be so easy, so perfect. I need to see them, he said finally. I cannot allow that. Then I need to leave. The words hung in the air between them like a challenge. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Auralis's expression hardened into something that looked almost alien in its coldness. You cannot leave, she said simply. What do you mean I can't leave? The biodome's barrier is keyed to my genetic signature. Without my permission, you cannot pass through the portal. The paradise around them suddenly felt like what it had always been, a beautiful prison with walls made of engineered pleasure. So I'm a prisoner. You are protected, Auralis corrected, but her voice lacked its usual certainty. Given time, you will understand. The integration process is difficult, but the result is worth. The result is slavery dressed up as love. The result is perfection. The crack in her composure widened, and for an instant, something raw and desperate flashed across her features. You will love me, Jace Marin. You will be happy. You will forget the chaos and pain of your former existence and embrace a life without suffering, a life without choice, a life without the wrong choices. They stared at each other across a distance that felt like galaxies. When Auralis spoke again, her voice had returned to its mechanical calm. You will remain here until integration is complete. Resistance will only prolong your discomfort. As she turned and walked away, her perfect form disappearing into the mathematical beauty of their prison, Jace realized something that chilled him to the bone. For just a moment, when her composure had cracked, he'd seen something in her eyes that looked almost human, almost like she was as trapped as he was. The revelation came at 3:47 a.m., according to his internal chronometer. The one advantage of a lifetime spent in research stations with artificial day cycles. Jace had been lying awake in the bower that served as their bedroom, watching Auralis sleep beside him with that same mathematical perfection she brought to everything else. Her breathing followed a precise rhythm. Her hair fanned across the pillow in an arrangement that looked artistically crafted. Even in sleep, she was flawless, which was why the single tear tracking down her cheek stopped his heart cold. She was dreaming, her perfect features marred by an expression of profound sadness. Her lips moved soundlessly, forming words he couldn't catch. The tear was followed by another, then another, until she was weeping in her sleep with a desperation that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than programming. Auralis. He touched her shoulder gently. Her eyes snapped open, instantly alert and dry. The transformation was so complete it made him wonder if he'd imagined the tears. You are awake at an optimal time, she said, her voice carrying its usual melodic calm. Your REM cycles indicate you have been experiencing stress dreams. Physical intimacy would regulate your neurochemistry and... You were crying. The statement hung between them like an accusation. Auralis's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. Biosynthetics do not cry. We have no evolutionary basis for emotional lacrimation. I saw tears. Condensation from the environmental regulators. The humidity adjusts during your sleep cycles to optimize. Stop. Jace sat up, studying her face in the soft bioluminescent glow that passed for starlight in their dome. Just stop lying for 1 second. I do not lie. Deception serves no purpose in optimal mate bonding. Then what were you dreaming about? Silence stretched between them. When Aurelius finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. I was dreaming of before. Before what? Before I was perfect. The admission seemed to surprise her as much as it did him. She sat up abruptly, her movement losing some of its usual fluid grace. That is impossible. I was created perfect. Engineered from genetic-based stock, according to optimal parameters. I have no before. But you remember something, don't you? Jace pressed gently. Something from before they made you into what you are now. Aurelius's hands clenched in the silk-soft bedding, the first uncontrolled gesture he'd seen from her. Sometimes I dream of imperfection, of making mistakes, of being afraid. She looked at him with something that might have been confusion. Why would I dream of inferiority? Maybe because you weren't always engineered. Maybe you were born. That is impossible. But her voice lacked conviction. Is it? Or is that just what they told you? Jace reached for her hand, and for once she didn't pull away. Aurelius, what's the earliest thing you remember? Not data they downloaded into you. Actual memory. Her brow furrowed with concentration. I remember. The integration chamber. Lights. Pain as the modifications took hold. She paused. But that is normal. All biosynthetics remember their creation. What about before the chamber? There is no before. I was. She stopped, her eyes widening. I remember being cold, afraid. Someone told me it would be better afterward. That the pain would stop if I just let them. Her voice trailed off into horrified silence. When she looked at him again, her perfect composure was cracking like eggshell. They took someone who was already alive and turned them into you, Jace said softly. Didn't they? No. The word came out as a whisper. No, that would be. They would have told me. Would they? If the goal was to create the perfect mate, would they want you remembering your old life? Your old loves? Your old choices? Aurelius pulled her hand away from his, wrapping her arms around herself in a gesture that looked achingly human. I am perfect. I am optimal. I am.
You're a person, Jace interrupted. Under all that engineering, all that programming, you're still a person. If that were true, then I would be ... She looked up at him with eyes full of dawning horror. I would be as much a prisoner as you. The admission broke something open between them. Suddenly, Aurelius wasn't the perfect mate designed for his pleasure. She was another victim, perhaps the first victim, of her species' desperate plan for survival. How many others? He asked. How many of the biosynthetics are really modified people? I don't know. We don't interact with each other. Cross-contamination protocols. She looked lost, like a child waking from a beautiful dream into a nightmare. Oh gods, what have I done? What have I helped them do? Before Jace could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the dome. The pastoral sounds of their paradise were replaced by harsh electronic warnings that made his teeth ache. What's happening? Aurelius's head snapped up, her expression cycling between programmed calm and genuine fear. Containment breach. One of the subjects has... She paused, something like hope flickering across her features. Someone is trying to escape. Through the translucent walls of their bower, Jace could see lights moving in the distant search patterns sweeping through. A perfect landscape. The dome's atmosphere was shifting too, becoming thicker, more oppressive. They're flooding it with sedatives, Aurelius said, her voice hollow. Standard protocol for subject rebellion. Everyone will be unconscious within minutes. Including you? No. Biosynthetics are immune to the compounds. She looked at him with something that might have been regret. I should activate your personal containment field. Keep you safe while the security teams restore order. They stared at each other in the pulsing red glow of the emergency lighting. In her eyes, Jace could see the battle being fought between programming and emerging consciousness, between what she was designed to do and what she was choosing to feel. Aurelus, he said softly, what do you want to do? The question seemed to hit her like a physical blow. She pressed her hands to her temples, her perfect features contorting with pain. I want ... double quotes, she began, then stopped. I want to help them. I want to help you. But the programming ... it's so strong. It's telling me to protect the mission, to preserve the breeding program, to fight it. I can't. It's not just psychological. There are neural inhibitors, genetic locks, pain responses that trigger when I try to. She doubled over as if to demonstrate, gasping in agony. Then don't fight the programming directly, Jace said urgently. The sedative gas was getting thicker, and he could feel his thoughts beginning to fuzz at the edges. Work with it. Your mission is to keep me safe, right? To make me happy? Yes, she gasped. Then get me out of here. Because I'll never be happy as a prisoner, and I'll never be safe as breeding stock. Aurelus looked up at him, her eyes bright, with tears that were definitely not condensation. For a long moment, she struggled with invisible chains. Then something in her expression shifted, not the programmed perfection falling away, but something deeper clicking into place. Stay close to me, she whispered, rising to her feet with newfound determination. I'm going to get you out of here. As she led him toward the Bower's exit, moving with purpose instead of programmed grace, Jace realized something profound had just happened. Aurelus hadn't broken her programming. She'd found a way to make love real love, chosen love work within. The portal chamber thrummed with energy that made Jace's teeth ache. Emergency lights bathed everything in hellish red, while containment fields crackled like caged lightning around a dozen human figures, the other subjects Aurelus had tried to hide from him. Most were unconscious from the sedative gas, but a few remained awake, their eyes wild with the same desperate hunger for freedom that burned in his chest. The breach originated here, Aurelus explained, as they crept through shadows between massive biomechanical structures. Someone discovered the portal's vulnerability during a system maintenance cycle. Who? She gestured toward a figure slumped. Against the chamber's far wall, a woman, with graying hair and fierce eyes that reminded Jace of his old professor, Dr. Elena Vasquez. Even semi-conscious, she radiated defiant intelligence. Dr. Catherine Webb, astrophysicist. She's been here for 87 days. Her biosynthetic partner reported increasing signs of integration resistance. Aurelus's voice carried something like admiration. She managed to override 3 security protocols before they stopped her. Can you get us to her? Can you get used to her? Yes, but Aurelus paused, her expression cycling between determination and agony. Once I help you escape, the neural locks will engage. The pain will be ... considerable. I may not remain functional. Then don't help me escape. Jace stopped walking, forcing her to face him. Come with me. That's impossible. I cannot leave the dome. My genetic signature is tied to... Your genetic signature opens the portal, right? At her nod, he continued. So you can leave. The question is whether you're willing to. Aurelus stared at him with something like wonder. You would want me to come with you? After everything I've done? After what I helped them do to you? You didn't have a choice then. You do now. But I'm not. I'm modified, engineered. Even if we escape, I'll never be fully human again. The changes are irreversible. Jace reached for her hands, marveling at how they trembled another crack in her perfect facade. I don't want you to be fully human. I want you to be fully yourself, whatever that means. Before she could respond, the chamber's main entrance iris dilated, and figures in biomechanical armor poured through. The Veil Thara Auralis's creators. They moved with insectile precision, their forms a disturbing blend of organic curves and technological augmentation. Subject 17 has achieved critical integration failure, one of them announced in a voice like grinding gears. Biosynthetic Auralis 7, initiate full compliance protocols. Auralis went rigid beside him, her eyes rolling back as invisible signals flooded her modified nervous system. When she looked at him again, her expression had returned to that terrible, perfect calm. Jace Marin, she said in her original melodic voice, you will return to your habitat. Resistance is counterproductive to your optimal development. Auralis, fight it. I am optimal. You will love me. That is nature's path. But even as she spoke the programmed words, tears streamed down her perfect cheeks. Her body moved to restrain him, while her eyes screamed for him to run. Override accepted, the lead Veilthara announced. Prepare subject for enhanced integration protocols. Resistance patterns indicate the need for more intensive conditioning. No. The word tore from Auralis's throat like broken glass. No, I won't let you. The biomechanical collar around her neck flared with energy, and she collapsed, convulsing in agony. But even as the pain racked her body, she fought against it, her hand reaching toward the portal controls. I choose, she gasped. I choose what to love. I choose who to save. I choose. Her finger found the activation sequence. The portal exploded to life, its surface rippling like disturbed water. Beyond it, Jace could see stars, real stars, not the artificial constellations of the dome. Go, Auralis screamed over the alarms. Take the others. Go now. But Jace couldn't move. Watching her fight against her programming, seeing the raw humanity blazing in her modified eyes, he realized something that changed everything. He loved her, not because she was designed to be perfect for him, not because of engineered compatibility or optimized pheromones. He loved her because she was choosing to sacrifice herself for strangers she'd been programmed to see as subjects. He loved her courage, her growing humanity, her refusal to accept the beautiful cage they'd both been placed in. He loved her because she was imperfect, flawed, real. I'm not leaving without you, he said. Jace, please. I said I'm not leaving without you. He knelt beside her, placing his hands on either side of her face. I love you. Not the perfect mate they made you pretend to be. You, the person who cries in her sleep and chooses to be brave even when it hurts. You can't love me, she whispered. I'm not real. You're the most real person I've ever met. The Veilthara were advancing now, their weapons charging with lethal energy. Around the chamber, the other subjects were beginning to stir, drawn by the portal's activation and the promise of freedom. Together? Jace asked, extending his hand. Auralis looked at his offered palm, then at the portal, then at the approaching figures who had stolen her identity and turned her into a tool. When she placed her hand in his, her fingers were steady. Together, she agreed. They dove through the portal as energy weapons discharged behind them, tumbling through space that tasted like starlight and possibility. Other figures followed Dr. Webb, the awakening subjects, everyone who could reach the threshold before it. Collapsed. They materialized on the surface of the alien world under a sky full of genuine stars. Behind them, the biodome flickered and began to fade, its perfect paradise revealed as the illusion it had always been. Auralis collapsed beside him, her modified systems struggling with the transition. But when Jace gathered her in his arms, she was smiling, not with programmed serenity, but with the messy, Imperfect joy of someone who had chosen freedom over security. What happens now? She asked. I don't know, Jace admitted. We figure it out together. We make mistakes. We have arguments. We discover who we really are when nobody's programming us to be perfect. That sounds terrifying. That sounds like love. As the rescued humans gathered around them, sharing stories and planning their return to Earth, Jace held Aurelius close and watched the alien dawn paint the sky in colors that had never been calculated or optimized. It was beautiful in a way that perfection could never be dotted. Was beautiful because it was chosen. And for the first time since landing on this world, Jace Marin felt truly free. The end.